Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Eternal Spring. I'm Paul Thrott, and I am here once again with my wife, Stephanie.
Hello.
Stephanie. I never actually call you Stephanie in real life. I usually call you
That's
Steph.
true.
Anyway, I don't know why it's so formal. Anyhow, she's 10 months ago-ish. We visited Mexico for the third time, Mexico City, I should say, for the third time. Fell in love with an apartment, went through the process of buying it. Completed that purchase not quite 6 months ago. Visited several times since. And during all this time and before, we both did a lot of research about this area, what to expect, places to go, things to do, all that kind of stuff. And yet, now that we've spent a lot of time in the area, which in our case is Roma Norte, we found ourselves surprised by a few things, some of which were avoidable because these things actually came up in the research and we ignored the research. We ignored what other experts, what actual experts said. And so I thought we'd step through maybe five of them today. They aren't all positive. They aren't all negative. They're just kind of interesting things that surprised us about the area. So why don't you give it a start with the first of the five?
All right. The first one is mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Some people had said there are mosquitoes in Mexico City, and we're like, I
Well,
don't
in
think
Roma Norte
so.
in particular,
Yes,
interestingly,
right. Yeah.
which to me doesn't make any sense.
No. I was like, the altitude's really high. It's nowhere near any major body of water.
Yep.
Um,
It's arid,
yeah. Yeah, dry.
dry.
So, and then I can tell you on the last couple trips, especially with it being the rainy season where you do get the moisture in the afternoons, there's mosquitoes, and they are not
A lot of
what you're
mosquitoes.
not going to find are screens. So
Right.
whether you're visiting and you're staying in an Airbnb, I mean, if you're in a hotel, it'll probably be somewhat hermetically sealed, but I can't 100% guarantee, but I can probably 98% guarantee that if you're staying in some kind of an Airbnb, you will not have screens on the windows. The weather will be beautiful. You're going to want the windows open. And then you're going to be
Get
watching
eaten
TV
alive.
at night, or you're going to be going to sleep and you're going to hear that
Hmm. The
in
weird
your
thing about
ears.
this to me is we grew up in the Boston area, New England, lots of mosquitoes every summer, no matter where you went. We moved to Pennsylvania, which, if anything, is even more rural and woody. There are no mosquitoes here. I think I've seen one mosquito the entire 5 years we've been here. On this last trip, I was so bitten by mosquitoes on the first night. It was the second worst mosquito episode of my entire life. My ankles were covered in red welts, like they were all over my body. And yeah, the mosquitoes are real.
Yes.
So we 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 ignored that to our peril. I'm not sure what we could have done. Well, I get fans help. There are
Fans help.
fans. We have a fan that has an insert in it. You can put some mosquito repellent type stuff in it. That'd be fun to be sprayed on you at night.
Yes.
But I think just having just a fan helps. And
Mhm.
maybe close the doors and windows, which is
Yeah.
not what you want to do. But if you're going to
Mhm.
be sleeping, those
Right.
little killers will be all around.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, so the second one is, this is going to sound strange too. It would surprise us, is sandwiches. Now, you would assume going to Mexico, you're going to take advantage of all the excellent Mexican food, which we understand to be certain types of food, tacos and things like tacos. Um, and yes, I mean, obviously that stuff exists. However, there's an incredible sandwich thing occurring in Mexico, which I think most people would be surprised by. And the reason is the Spanish weren't the only people to come to Mexico. The French were also there. And they were defeated in Puebla in the mid 1800s, and left behind baguettes. So you can get tortas and other forms of sandwiches there. The bread I've had in Mexico City is among the best bread I've ever had in my life. And we have spent a lot of time in France. Um, that has been a wonderful surprise.
Mhm.
And this is another example of something I had been told about by people maybe on YouTube or in books or whatever. And I thought, spare me. Nobody's getting sandwiches. We have great sandwiches here. We grew up with great sandwiches, but sandwiches are real.
Mhm.
Fantastic.
Yep. They're really good.
Yeah, really, really good and cheap.
Yes, very affordable.
Okay. Number three.
Aguas frescas. Aguas frescas is a delicious drink that they make in restaurants and on street stands by blending roughly maybe 50% water with a little bit of ice and then 50% fresh fruit. It could be, they usually have a range of fruit choices, you know, melon, pineapple, watermelon, strawberry, all kinds of things. And you can choose to get these drinks on the street. They're delicious. They also, in restaurants, are often called Agua del Dia, which means the water of the day, which can lead to a little bit of confusion because if you just ask for water in a restaurant, they kind of assume that you mean Agua del Dia and are going to present you with a list of choices, maybe one or two, maybe more, depending on the restaurant. And you kind of just meant you just want water and you don't understand what they mean because you know 10 Spanish words and one of them is agua. And why are they not understanding this?
Why are they asking you further questions? Well, if you go to a fancy restaurant in the United States or elsewhere, they'll often ask if you want sparkling or still water. That's kind of a common question. And we get that question at high-end restaurants in Mexico. But a lot of restaurants, like you said, it's, you know, what time it helps if you want still water, you can say that. If you want agua mineral, we would say for sparkling water, you can say that. But if you just ask for water, there's this, you're not done conversing. There's more questions to be had.
And these are delicious. So highly recommended whether you were out on the street and you're a little bit warm and thirsty and you see a stand that's selling these things, or you're in a restaurant and you want to have something with your, your lunch or dinner.
The best way I can describe these.
Juicy.
Right. So when I was a kid growing up, I found juice to be too sweet and cloying and too thick, no matter what it was. Orange juice, cider especially was like this. And I would often mix half a glass of water with the juice. And that's kind of the consistency. It's very watery. And you can get some of them, you can get with sugar if you want that. I think a lot of Mexican people probably do have sugar. We ask for sin azúcar, but yeah, lots of different flavors. Fantastic. All right. So number 4 is water and ice. Now, everyone knows or thinks they know when they come to Mexico that you can't drink the water. And we had this on a list somewhere before. We discussed this briefly, but it is a fact. You can't drink the water. I think what people don't understand, and I would say we probably didn't understand this very well either, especially in Mexico City. I can't speak for the entire country, but in Mexico City, no one can drink the water, right? It's not a case of getting used to it. Our bodies just aren't used to the water here. No. The water here is bad. Well, the water here is fine. It's the water travels through pipes that are rusted or have holes and bad things get in or whatever it is. So you can do a test on the water to find out if the water coming to your exact location is good, and it might be, but the problem is tomorrow or a week from now or a year from now, it might not be. It's very unsafe to drink the water. The problem with this is you would thus think that if you go to a restaurant, you can't get ice or you can't get water because the water will be bad. But the thing to remember is no one can drink that stuff. So if you're being served water or ice, it has been cleaned in some way, right? It's healthy filtered water. And that's because everyone there needs that, So we know people have come to Mexico and have ordered drinks and never got ice, thinking that somehow that ice will be made, as if it were made from the tap. That's never the case.
Belief is that you can't drink the water, you can't eat the ice or use the ice. And most restaurants, they're serving, you'll see it in some restaurants because a lot of times it'll be open behind the counter and you'll see that they have a little filtered tap coming off, or they're using bottled water.
5. This is a fun one.
Number 5 is provecho, and I love provecho. I think this is like such a fun custom. Provecho is kind of like bon appetit or enjoy your meal, we would say in English probably. And you will often hear your server say provecho or buen provecho when they put your meal down in front of you. But that's not that unusual. What is fun about this in Mexico City is it's common for people who have finished their meal and are leaving the restaurant to say provecho to the diners who are still eating their meals, who are seated close to
around them. Yeah.
So if you're in a Mexican restaurant and somebody gets up and they say provecho to you, it's not, it can seem a little bit weird at first because they're leaving and they don't kind of talk directly to you. They just kind of throw it over their shoulder towards you, but you might realize they're not talking to the server. So you're wondering who they're talking to, and they're talking to you, and they're just wishing you a pleasant rest of your meal. And you can say gracias. That seems to be the customary response to that. And
Yeah,
it's just a sweet custom that I like a lot.
right. It's just part of the whole Mexico is so friendly thing, that it's very common for a server to, tell you to enjoy your meal, bon appetit, whatever. But for other people in the restaurant to do it, it took us a while to latch onto this. It wasn't clear what was happening. We noticed this months ago. We've seen it again and again. I think it might have been just this past trip we figured it out finally. These are people leaving who are literally telling the people around them to enjoy their meals as they leave. I think it's like I just think it's such a perfect Mexico tradition. I'm sure they do this. I'm sure it's not just Mexico City, but we don't know for a fact. But it's I've just never seen anything like it. If you've been in a restaurant that's nice and maybe you start talking to the people around you, kind of thing, you might leave and say, "Hey, enjoy your meal." That's very common. But these are people you've never spoken to before. They're just in the restaurant with
They
you,
just
right? You
happen to be seated alongside you.
maybe they're walking by you on the way to the door, and they'll still, they say provecho on the way out. I think it's really neat.
Yep, it's really neat.
Yeah. So we could have gone on, and maybe we'll do another one of these videos. We were coming up with this list of things that kind of surprised us, and I guess these were the top ones, mostly because I think they're unusual. That's the point of a surprise. So they were surprising. Anyway, perhaps we'll do one of these again in the future, but I thought this was kind of a fun little list because I don't think most of these will be anything anyone would normally think of going to Mexico. And
right, it's definitely not the high points that you hit in the guidebooks or the YouTube videos or that kind of thing.
I don't know what chapter in a book this would be in, I guess, but it's
72.
Yeah, it is. But it's these are fun little things, or different little things that are always fun. But about being certainly in Roma Norte or Mexico City. Well, thank you again. We will be back soon with another video.
Thank you. Bye.